Hello and welcome to today's video, which is going to be my review of the Lisa Eldridge summer collection. This collection has been out for a while, I think maybe 3 to 4 weeks, I'm not 100% sure, but it's been out for a while. I think I received my PR package maybe like a week to 10 days after it launched. I know that a lot of people have reviewed it already, but I just wanted to give my 2 cents and kind of go through the palette from my perspective as somebody who has tried, I think, all of Lisa Eldridge formulas. I have 4 of her other palettes. I have 3 of the Rouge Experience lipsticks already. So I wanted to kind of just give my thoughts as somebody who has tried these formulas before, but they're new shades to me. I do also like to try things out for a while before I give my thoughts on them because, you know, obviously with makeup it's easier to give your opinion sooner than it is with the likes of skincare, but I still wanted to kind of try everything out and use it as both as a content creator and as a beauty lover and a beauty consumer. I wanted to kind of use it in both of those ways. What way is somebody who doesn't create content online going to use it, and how can you integrate this into your makeup collection? Is it going to be worth your while to purchase this, or, you know, is it just not going to be for you? Would you be better off to buy the refills, the single eyeshadows instead? I've also taken lots of photos of swatch comparisons of the lipsticks, so I will add those on screen when I'm talking about the lipsticks because I just kind of thought it would be better to show those images rather than to swatch everything on camera, because it's going to be easier to see everything in a still image. And I'll also be doing a blog post on this collection. I'm going to include photos of the eye looks that I've done so far, and all those swatches will be included in the blog post as well, because I know that that is one of the most searched things on my blog is the Lisa Eldridge lipstick swatches, because I have so many of her lipsticks and it's nice to be able to compare them to the existing collection and also the shades that have been discontinued, because there are some similarities there and I think that might be really helpful for people. If you like this video, give me a little thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know if you've bought anything from the collection or is anything on your wish list, and yeah, let's just get straight into it. So I'm going to run through the packaging and the formulas quite quickly because those are things that I've already reviewed in detail. If you're somebody who is a fan of Lisa Eldridge products, you may have already tried these formulas. Today's review is going to be more about the colour story and the shades rather than the actual packaging and the formulas. If you're wondering about my eye look, I used the palette. I was going to film a look and do the review at the same time, but it's just too hot and I just thought if I'm talking about the palette as I'm doing the eye look, it's just going to take ages, so I just wanted to have my makeup done. I did film this in a short form video, so that's going to be on YouTube and on Instagram at the same time as this video is posted, so you can see the look then. But basically I used the Acacia dark matte brown shade over a pencil as the graphic line. Then I used the shade Firefly all over my lid, and then I used Christina in the inner corner. So that's the eye look, and it's kind of like a 70s disco inspired kind of a look. I love graphic eye makeup, I love 70s makeup, I love disco, I love that kind of like real, you know, exaggerated graphic line, wing, all that kind of stuff. Obviously if there's any eye looks that you want me to do, just let me know and I can do that. But let's start with the palette. So this is the Desert Gleam eyeshadow palette. It is a 6-pan eyeshadow palette. There are 3 matte shades and 3 kind of shimmer metallic shades. This shade is called Dunes and it is a seamless matte formula. This middle one is called Christina, and it is a luminous formula. This dark brown is called Acacia, and it is a seamless matte, the same as Dunes. Then we have Firefly, which is a metallic, Sahara, which is a velvet formula, and then Ablaze, which is also a metallic. So they are all formulas that we have seen before in Lisa's previous palettes. I have used all of these formulas before, so I'm very familiar with them. I've worked with them a lot over the past few years since she released her palettes. I'm a big fan of the formula and I find them really easy to use. If you want to know more about the formulas and the other shades that are available in these formulas, I do have that on my blog. I have a full review of the original 3 palettes I got, which are Cinnabar, Sorcery and Vega. Cinnabar has been discontinued, so that is not available anymore, but the other 2 are still available. And then I also did a full review of the Betty palette, but that's limited edition, so that's kind of gone now. I have reviewed the formulas and you can kind of read a bit more about them on my blog. I'll have all of that linked in the description box if you want to know more about the formulas, because obviously that's like half the bottle is the formula. But yeah, it's the exact same packaging as all the other palettes. It's that kind of, you know, nice sleek gold. It has this kind of little seam going across the top, and at the back it has all of the shade names and little pins where you can push out the pans and either move them around or depot them, put them into a bigger palette, or add your refills or whatever you want to do. So it's a very nice kind of nice size palette, really nice and sleek. I think the only thing that people seem to not like about the palette is the seam in it. Kind of makes it hard to stack them. I store mine this way and I kind of just have them all in a row. I have a few of them here, so I just kind of do them like this, so they're all kind of standing up. But yes, it's a really nice kind of a durable packaging, and I like that you can push some of the shades out and kind of rejig them and make whatever kind of palette you want. For example, for my wedding, I mixed around a bunch of the shades and I made this little palette. This is a palette I used on my wedding day. As you can see, this is so well loved. It's got like lots of pan showing in it. I really liked that I was able to just make up my own little palette like that. It just kind of makes things nice and easy, and it's handy if you're a makeup artist as well. I'll quickly swatch the eyeshadows because I know that that is always kind of nice to see on camera. That is the shade Dunes. I'm just going to put them on the back of my hand. That is the shade Dunes. Kind of a nice caramel tan medium shade. This is the shade Christina. This is like a really kind of a creamy shade. That's it there. So it's kind of a silver gold shifting kind of a duochrome. So you can kind of see it kind of looks both warm and cool at the same time. If you tilt it that way, it's kind of like a taupe, and then if you bring it forward, it kind of has a champagne gold kind of a shift in it, so it looks kind of cool and warm at the same time. And then we have Acacia, which is the dark brown. This is a great one for using as a liner. Probably should have done this not on my hand, but anyway, that is it there. Ablaze, really nice kind of a neutral shade. So that is Ablaze. That's the metallic formula. Sahara. Ooh. This one. That one. And then we have Firefly, which is the kind of yellowy gold, kind of green gold, I suppose. That's it. That's the one I have kind of mostly on my eyes today. And then that is the swatch of it. I also have daylight swatches of all of the eyeshadows, and that will be on my blog as well, so you can see them kind of up close and really well. Like the other palettes, 6 shades. It is €59. The refills are €14, and this is a permanent product, unlike the Betty palette that was a few months ago. So there's no need to kind of feel like you're not going to be able to get it. It will be available, and the refills will also be available. So that's the great thing about this palette, is it is permanent, which is always my preference. I like permanent makeup. Obviously nothing is permanent. You know, I'm not a big fan of limited edition purely because I feel like it's creates that kind of scarcity mentality where people feel like they have to buy something because if I don't buy it now, I'm never going to be able to get it again, which is, you know, I have fallen victim to that as well, and I'm not a big I'm not a big fan of that for myself either. It is kind of inspired by the 70s and that kind of like editorial desert glam, high fashion, warm, shimmering, kind of like a mirage, you know, very earthy as well. So it's kind of that, you know, you have got the kind of those vibrant shades, the gold, and then this kind of like luminous shade as well, which are really metallic and shimmery, kind of like a molten metal. But then the mattes are quite earthy shades. They're quite grounding because they are, you know, just shades that kind of can go with anything. So one thing that I wanted to do with this palette, which I haven't done before in any palette review, is to go through my collection and see if I have any shades that are similar to these shades. So I've kind of picked out a few palettes that I think have shades that are similar, and just kind of see, okay, if I wasn't sent this in PR and I looked at it and I thought I really want to buy this, is there a way I can go into my collection and make a similar style palette without having to buy something new? So that's something that I wanted to kind of do in this video as well, just to kind of be, I don't know, I suppose a voice of reason. My last video was about my no buy, and I want to kind of continue that mentality of less is more and buying things that are just special. When I first saw this palette, I suppose the things that jumped out at me the most are probably the middle two shades. I suppose these three are probably the most unique, and those would be the selling point to me of this palette, because the likes of this medium brown, the dark brown, and this metallic kind of medium kind of tan shade, they're all shades that I probably have a couple of in my collection, so they're not going to be as unique. They're not going to be the reason that I would have bought this palette. So those three were the ones that really stood out to me, that I thought were kind of quite unique. So it was interesting to go into my collection and see if I had anything similar. Okay, so I'm going to just show you the mattes first and the similar shades, or the closest shades that I found in my collection. This is Dunes from the Desert Gleam palette. This is the shade Acacia, and then this is Sahara. So then this is Raw Sienna from the Cinnabar palette, which is discontinued, and then this is Fired Earth from the Cinnabar palette, and then this is a matte green from the Robert Welsh Blend Bunny palette. So it's this one here, that shade. That's the closest matte green that I could find. I don't have anything else that's like a matte green, so if you kind of put it beside that that shadow, you can kind of see this is Sahara. It's a much more muted green compared to this, which is like a really, like a grass green, like a really true green. So you can see that these are quite similar. I would say that the ones from the Cinnabar palette are a little bit cooler, maybe a little bit more muted, I suppose. These two are very different. So the shade Sahara, the green matte shade, is, I just couldn't find anything that was the same as that in my collection. So these are the metallics, okay? And this is Firefly, this is Ablaze, and this is Christina here. This is Madrigal from the Sorcery palette, and this is the shade Decadent from the Urban Decay Metal Mania palette. So they're kind of similar enough. This is a lot more of a yellow gold, or this I think is more of a green gold. Then I have High Maintenance from the Betty palette, and this is the shade Rustler from the Naked Wild West palette. So you can kind of just see the differences there. This is definitely the sparkliest of those three. Show you them up close. And this is those three. This one is Christina. Then I thought this would be similar, but it's not at all. This is Bodyography Spirit Quartz. This is Mage from the Sorcery palette, and this is Mercurial, sorry, from the Sorcery palette. I've never actually done that before, where I have gone through a new palette and seen, are there any similar shades in my own collection? Like, could I get a similar look from the products in my collection? And I would say that the answer is yes. like to a certain extent. It's not going to be exact. None of those shades are, you know, none of those shades are exact. Like there is kind of slight differences, but you could probably achieve a similar vibe. The ones that were the hardest to dupe were, yeah, the ones that to me were the standouts from the palette, which is Sahara and Christina. The other shades I can get like close enough to them that I'd be like happy enough with the shades that I have already in my collection, whereas those two in the center, they're quite unique to me and I don't really have anything that really is similar to those. None of them were close enough that I would think, okay, I don't need to buy those. You know, I could kind of talk myself into buying the singles of those because I kind of think, oh well, I really love the look of those two shades and I don't really have anything that comes close to it. So yeah, that was interesting to kind of go through my own collection and see, did I have anything that could allow me to achieve a look that I would get from this palette. Whether this is a palette for you is going to completely depend on, I think, the number one thing is going to be obviously like your budget, all that kind of stuff. And then the second thing is going to be, are those your kind of shades? Do you have shades that are like that? Do you have a matte khaki green? Do you have that kind of like a green gold? The browns are more like those kind of anchor shades that just are really handy to have in a palette. And like I said, you know, I used this as a liner today. I have used this kind of as a, I suppose, a transition shade. So I will have the looks that I did using this palette on my blog, and I will have the short form content I have filmed doing those looks linked in the description box as well. When I first saw this palette and heard that the inspiration was the 70s, I straight away thought about Jerry Hall and the makeup that she wears in the video for Roxy Music's Let's Stick Together. So I recreated that look because that's one of my like all-time favorite like beauty moments in a music video. I just love that look. The red glossy lips, the kind of like smoked out metallic eyes, and then she has this like long blonde hair and like this amazing dress, and it's just such a cool like beauty moment in the music. So I absolutely loved that, and I kind of tried to do like my version of that look with the palette, and I loved how that turned out. That really kind of like blown out 70s, quite smoky but also a little bit shimmery. I love that kind of look. Obviously I've done this kind of yellow gold look today. I did also wear this shade Firefly. I also wore that on top of the liquid eyeshadow in Ioni. I did that kind of like blended out all over, and then this on top and a little bit of liner and some mascara, and it was just such a nice look because it kind of like made this shade a lot more subdued. No, it wasn't as like metallic and in your face because it had that matte neutral shade underneath. I have also worn Christina on its own. I've worn it with liner. I have worn the shade Sahara all over my eye. I used the Seamless Glide pencil in the shade Night Forest. I kind of blended that really close to my lash line, and then I patted Sahara on top and blended it out, and it was just a really nice kind of a very easy eye look, but it was had that something different because it was like a matte khaki green. And then I have used these two as an eye look. I have used like these two together. I've used these two together. So I feel like I have used all of the shades enough that I can say that they have lived up to my expectations in terms of the formula and how they compare to all of the other eyeshadows of those formulas in her palettes. You know, I am a big fan of the palettes. Obviously I wore them on my wedding day, so to me that's the true testament of a great product. If you're willing to wear it on your wedding day, then it's great. I have very oily eyelids, so I will always use a primer. That's just me. I know that not everyone needs a primer or wants to use a primer, but for me, I just find if I don't use a primer, eyeshadows just don't last because I just get such oily eyelids, and I can crease, like, especially because I have kind of like, if I relax my eyes, they are quite hooded, so I will get creasing in here if I don't use a primer. But when I use a primer, they last all day perfectly, not a bother. And the fact that it's been so hot here lately, we've had a heat wave in Ireland, and they've lasted really well in that. When I have been doing makeup, I have not been doing makeup every day because it's just been like too hot some days, but when I have been doing makeup and wearing this eyeshadow palette, because I obviously wanted to wear all the eyeshadows multiple times and really test it out before I kind of gave my thoughts on it. It wasn't about the formulas for me, it was about the colour story and the shades and how they worked together. Was it an intuitive palette? Was it something that inspired me, that made me want to sit down and do my makeup, that kind of thing? This one made me really excited to go and look at my folder in my phone of all the makeup inspiration, because I have loads of like 70s makeup looks saved that I want to do. So that just made me think about like all of those like real incredible 70s disco makeup looks, and it made me think, okay, I want to do like a halo eye, I want to do like that really exaggerated graphic eye like I have today, or like that really kind of blown out like rounded eye with like lashes, top and bottom, that kind of like sheer look. There are just some incredible 70s eye makeup looks that this eyeshadow palette would be perfect for, and I really like that it has those 3 metallic shades which are really quite different, and then the mattes just really kind of ground it and make it something that I think anyone could use. I would say if you're not a fan of greens or like green and golds, I just don't think there's any point in buying a palette like this, because that is like the overall like story. So I think like if you're looking at this palette and you're thinking, oh, it looks really nice, but you're only gonna use these 2 shades, because obviously I think these 2 are the most wearable out of the whole palette. Obviously this brown can be used as a liner, so it's really great for something like that, but I think these 2 would be the shades that people would probably be the most drawn to. They're going to make a quite nice eye look and you're not going to have to think about it, whereas I feel like with these 3 shades, these are the shades that maybe you might have to kind of think about a little bit more. It's not going to be for everyone. I love greens, I love golds, I love those kind of rich tones, I love metallic shades, so this is really a palette that made me excited. I think like unless you are somebody who these 3 shades appeal to you, then I just think there is no point in buying a €59 £6 palette if you don't like at least 5 of the shades, because otherwise you might as well buy the single refills, because it's just going to be better value and it's not going to be wasteful. One of the days I wore June's kind of blended out softly with Crysina on top, and depending on what base you have underneath Crysina, it can look a little bit different because it has that kind of duochrome shift to it. So that's another thing, is that's a quite versatile eyeshadow, because you can kind of change it depending on what you have underneath it. Like I think that it would look amazing with Acacia and then this on top, because it would be such a nice like dark base for that shadow and it would look incredible. In short, I think if you are somebody who saw this palette and kind of struggled to think about how you would wear it, then it's probably not going to be for you. Whereas if you looked at this and you thought, oh my god, I love green, I love gold, I love those warm kind of caramel tones, I love mattes and metallics, then this could be something that would be really nice to have in your collection if you have the budget for it and if you think that you would use it. One of the great things about Lisa having the refill system is that you can just buy singles. So if you're looking at this and thinking, you know what, I'd only wear 2 or 3 of those shades, or you know, I have like this and I have this already in other palettes, so I might just buy the Crysina and the Sahara, or I might just buy, you know, these 2 because I love a metallic. So that is the good thing about that refill system, is sometimes I'll look at a palette and I'll think, oh, those shades look amazing, but I wouldn't wear the rest of the palette, and so I won't buy it because there's no point in me buying a palette for a couple of shades that I like. Whereas with the Lisa Eldridge ones, you can just buy the refills of the shades that you like and think you might wear or think are unique to your collection, and that way you're not wasting your money on a palette that you're not going to wear all of, or like you're only going to wear like 2 or 3 shades out of it. It's such a great option to have because there are very few brands that actually do that, so I love that they do that, and I just think it's so great if you want to try out the formulas or try out certain shades and you don't want to spend the money on a full palette, because like I said, this colour story isn't going to be for everyone, and that's fine, and you might just only wear a couple of the shades, and in that case it's probably not going to be worth your money. But if you are somebody who has tried the eyeshadows before and you love the formulas and you find them easy to work with and long lasting and all that kind of stuff, this is such a lovely colour story. And despite the fact that it is a summer release, I also think that this is going to be incredible for the autumn, because I think that there's so much to play with there. You know, as gorgeous as these shades are in the summer, they will also be amazing in the autumn. And like doing a smoky eye with the matte shades, like the dark brown and the matte khaki green, doing that kind of a smoky eye and lining your eyes with like a brown liner, doing kind of like a 90s like smoky eye in the autumn will look amazing. So I do think that this is a palette. It's not like your typical summer release. It's like something that you can wear all year round, kind of like for any occasion. You could just use one of these shades all over your eye, blend it out with a little bit of liner, or you can do a full-on glam look like I did with the first look I did with this palette, the Jerry Hall inspired look. Despite it being a 6-pan palette with 3 mattes and 3 shimmers, it's very versatile and very dynamic, and you can do a lot with it. So in that sense, I think if you're looking at it and you think I love all of those shades, then I do think it is a lovely palette to buy, because I think it's something quite different, and I think it's something that you will, you know, probably really love and use. At the time that that product was released, I was doing a no buy, so I wouldn't have bought it. I was very, very lucky to be sent it by the brand, and I've loved playing with it. I've had so much fun. I'm really excited to put the blog post together and show you the looks that I've done with the palette. I want to do a couple more before I kind of post that blog post, but I just really loved it. And even this look I did today, like I just had so much fun doing this. I love this kind of eye look as much as I love like just doing like a matte smoky eye, or just like one shimmer all over your lid and keeping it really kind of just simple. It's a palette that I've really enjoyed playing with, and yeah, I have like loads of other ideas for looks that I want to do using it. So if you like the formula and if you like the shades, you're not going to be disappointed. But I think if there are any shades that you're not sure about or you just don't like, then it's just not going to be worth your money to buy it. So I love it, but I know it's not going to be for everyone. But at least they have the refills there, so you can buy like 1 or 2 shades if you wanted to. The other part of this collection was the 3 new shades of the Rouge Experience refillable lipsticks. So they come in the refillable packaging. I have my initials on the bottom, and then you can just change the refill. This is the shade Toasted. These 3 shades, Lisa said in her launch video, are inspired by the 90s lipsticks in her collection. So this is like a rosy beige neutral kind of shade. Ray, which is a mauvey kind of a chocolate brown. And again, I will have all of the swatches with the names so you can see how they compare to her other lipsticks, because I know that that's something that I was really curious about. And then we have the third one, which is a kind of a spicy, I think she called it a dirty spicy chili red, and this is the shade Lili, which is, Lisa said, is her nickname that her friends and family call her. So that is the shade Lili, and it's such a gorgeous red. Oh my god, I absolutely love that shade. So I do have swatches of all of those, and I will add those on screen, and they will also be in the blog post so you can see how they compare. But I'm wearing the shade Toasted today, and it is that really beautiful kind of, what did she call it as? I think a milk tea beige or something, but it's just such a nice shade. And this, I thought this would be quite pale when I first saw it, but actually it works on a lot of different skin tones, especially depending on what liner you put with it. So that is a stunning shade. So this is Toasted, Lili and Ray. And I actually used Toasted and Ray mixed with the Elevated Glow highlighter as my blush today, so it kind of like toned in with my lip. But as you can see, they are really nice nuanced shades that would work on so many different skin tones. It is that kind of like creamy satin formula of the Rouge Experience. I knew I would love Lili, and I figured I would probably love Toasted as well. I wasn't sure how Ray would look on me, but if you know the shade Velvet Decade that was discontinued last year, RIP, it's one of my favorite, all-time favorite lipstick shades, and it had to go. But thankfully Ray is very, very similar to it. I will add the swatch photos so you'll be able to see, but I would say that Ray is the most similar to Decade and Sorcery, and then I would say Lili is the most similar to Velvet Cinnabar and Velvet Dragon. Toasted, I would say, is probably most similar to like maybe Muse and Fair. Yeah, it's kind of darker than I thought it would be, but it works really, really well on loads of different skin tones. All three of the lipsticks too. And you can kind of see the sheen off them. The formula, it's like a really nice, comfortable formula to wear. So you can buy the lipstick in the case for €59, and then the refills are €30. I think when you buy the case and one refill, you get 15% off the refill, and I think when you buy the case and two refills, you get 20% off the refills. I think I will add all the details in the description box in case I'm wrong, which I probably am. That's just something to consider if you did want to go for the lipstick and buy a couple of the refills. I spoke about the Rouge experience when they came out, but there are some beautiful shades in this formula. One of my favorites is Lisa because it's just such an easy shade to wear. My mom has that shade as well and she loved it, and she actually bought the shade Audrey for her friend who's like a huge fan of Audrey Hepburn. She bought that for her and she absolutely loved it. It's one of those things where it's just such a special piece of makeup. It's just so beautiful. It's so nice to hold. I love how easy it is to change the refills. You just pop it out. It has the number on the bottom, and then you can just pop the next one in, and it's just so easy. You know, obviously it's inspired by her vintage makeup collection and the packaging, how the packaging used to be refillable. I love how it looks. I just love how weighted it is. It's just such a nice thing to hold and to use. So yeah. This formula is definitely not the longest lasting formula. Obviously she has the True Velvet formula and the Velveteens, which are much longer lasting. This one I definitely have to reapply after eating or drinking or after a few hours, but it is so comfortable to wear. Every time she releases new lipstick shades, I kind of think, okay, well, how can you come up with any more shades? Because you've already released all these incredible shades that are so beautiful and nuanced, and they look amazing on so many different skin tones. Like, how can you possibly have more lipstick shades to release? And then she does, and they're amazing. Depending on what your preferences are, you may like Toasted, you may prefer Ray as a neutral shade. If you have a deeper skin tone, it's so gorgeous on. It has filled that void of Decade, Velvet Decade for me, because that was like one of my favorite shades. Absolutely loved it. And Sorcery is similar, but it's not as, it's kind of like deep and rich and kind of a little bit cooler. So I love that Ray really kind of reminds me of Decade, and it's such a gorgeous, like that really 90s inspired kind of shade. And I feel like I'm going to wear that so much in the autumn time because it's just a real like autumn winter color for me. I feel like Lili is the shade that it's kind of almost in between Dragon and Cinnabar, where it has a little bit of depth to it, but it's still quite brightening but muted, if that makes any sense. So yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of a muted, kind of like a brick red end of the scale. And Toasted is like such a perfect 90s neutral shade, that kind of like she said, a milky tea beige, which it really is. So yeah, those are the shades. I just love them so much. I love them. I think I was more excited about the lipstick shades than I was about the palette, because these are really such stunning shades, and you know me, I'm just lipstick crazy. So any new lipstick shades from Lisa Eldridge, and I'm so excited, but they are really such beautiful shades. I was super excited to try those, and they have completely surpassed my expectations. And even like with the neutral shades like Fawn and Affair and Muse and like Le Mépris, Toasted is kind of like in between that. It has the kind of slightly rosy brown beige, but also it has a tiny bit of peach to it. It's like a really good neutral, kind of a mixture of all of those undertones that I think will work so well in so many different skin tones. So as you may be able to tell, I'm a big fan of the palette and the 3 lipsticks. I think that they're a really good addition to the overall collection, having the kind of shades that slot in with the rest of the collection and kind of like there are those in between shades. If you love her formulas and you love her other shades, then I feel like these lipstick shades are going to slot really well in with the other ones. They are just such, I keep saying it, but they're such nuanced shades, which I just love to see. There's just something different when it's a Lisa Eldridge shade. It just is so expertly mixed, and those like undertones are really well thought out. And the fact that these shades are based on original 90s lipsticks, she has such a vast collection of vintage makeup that she has the ability to shade match to true vintage 90s lipsticks. So I love that. Hopefully the eyeshadow comparisons and the lipstick swatches are helpful. I hope that the blog post will be a good accompaniment to this video and that you can see the images of everything really clearly and kind of decide whether the eyeshadows and the lipsticks are something that is worth you spending your money on. Because obviously when a collection comes along from a brand that you really like, your initial response is like, oh, I want to buy that, regardless of what the shades are. But I think it's really important to kind of just take a step back and kind of have a think about it and say, okay, am I actually going to wear this? Do I want it because it's a formula that I know I like, or a brand that I know I like, or will I actually wear these? I know that that's hard for me to say because I was sent these in PR, but I also want to think of this in the mind of a consumer and say, if I had bought this and I wasn't creating content, what way would I wear them? Would they add value to my makeup collection? Would they excite me to use them? That kind of thing. So only you can decide whether something is going to be worth it for you. But hopefully this video was helpful. And as always, if there is anything else that you want to see or you want to know, if there are any other comparisons that you want to see, any other swatch comparisons you want to see, any specific eye looks that you want to see, just drop me a comment or a DM and let me know, because I would be more than happy to do that. I will add it to my list of things that I want to film. I hope that this video was helpful. If you liked it, please do give me a thumbs up. Let me know in a comment if you've bought any of these products, or if you are going to buy any of these products. Are they on your wish list? Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Do check out my blog post and the short form content that I have linked in the description box, and I will see you next week with another video. Goodbye.